Hi, this is Jim Gibson, and today's topic is going to be how to keep safe while surfing on the internet. And I'm going to talk about three things. I'm going to talk about phishing, I'm going to talk about patching, and I'm going to talk about passwords. So keep watching. At the end, I'm going to show you how to create a password that you'll never forget and follows all the rules of cybersecurity. Again, my name is Jim Gibson. Let me give you a little bit of background why I have authority in this issue. I consider myself a cybersecurity professional, and the reason I consider myself that is I've been in IT for 38 years now. And I started out in the Marine Corps as a Marine Corps officer, and I started in a secure facility. I had to deal with top secret information and learned all that stuff in the Marine Corps and everything else. Worked for some big corporations. And I'm also certified CISSP, Certified Information Systems, Certified Information Systems Security Professional. And that was a 6-hour exam. I had to have 5 years experience in cybersecurity, and pretty much vouches that I should know what I'm talking about. So let's get started, okay? When you deal with cybersecurity, everyone's concerned about being on the internet, and if people are watching, I'm not talking about the NSA, by the way. I'm talking about evil hackers. I doubt the NSA is watching you. But to make a long story short, this is something you should be concerned about, and you should have a healthy concern on it. You know, you go to bed at night, you know, the last thing I do anyway in my area is I check my doors to make sure they're locked. I make sure all the windows downstairs are locked. And when I leave the house, I set my alarm in my house. I set my alarm on my car because I know what the world is like. And I've been a victim of identity theft in the past, and it's kind of miserable. Took a long time to find the person that did it. Had to bring them to justice a couple times. So I know the heartaches that can be involved in someone getting personal information like your bank account, like other information that you may not want to share. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you some things that are going to help you stay secure on the internet. And as I said earlier, at the very end I'm going to talk about a little way to remember a complex password that you'll never have to write down and you'll never forget if you do it right. So the first thing I want to talk about today is I want to talk about passwords. Passwords. I think of all the pain in the world, well, maybe not, but at least they rank up there as a pain in the neck because you forget them, they're hard to come up with, it's difficult. But you really need to change your password on a regular basis. And you need these. You just need to follow certain rules when it comes to password. And of course, at the end of this, I'm going to talk to you, at the end of talking about passwords, I'm going to talk to you about some software that can help you in passwords. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to give you a little trick on how to remember a password that you'll never forget. So let's start out. Never, ever share your password with anybody. So if you're talking to somebody and someone asks you what your password is, don't share that password with anybody. Just keep it to yourself. Don't tell anybody else about it. If you're in a business setting and you have an IT guy and you're typing in your password so he can get into your computer or she can get in your computer, what I would expect out of courtesy is that the IT person turns around and turns their back towards you so they don't see your password. The next thing is never, never, never write your password down. Some people, I've actually seen it written on their screen, a little sticky on their screens, all their passwords to each location that they go to. You just don't write it down. It's just bad to do it. So with that in mind also, how long does a password need to be? Well, you need at this point in 2017, you need at least 8 characters long. I would say even longer than that, and depending on your situation, it may even be a lot longer than that. Some people have gone way beyond 8, and you can do it easily, and I'll tell you how. but it should be 8 characters long. Now, what should it have in those 8 characters? Well, it should have upper and lowercase alpha. So, you know, a capital A, lowercase c, and, you know, those type of passwords. I always stay away from the zeros and the O's because they're easy to not recognize when you do passwords. So stay away from the zeros and the O's. But you should also have symbols in there. So, you know, pound signs, question mark, exclamation mark, a cent sign. I don't think they still have them on keyboards anymore, cent signs, but haven't seen one in a long time. But, you know, some kind of symbol should be in there, and then you should also have numbers. And don't make it logical. Don't try to make sense in this password. It should be completely random, upper, lowercase, numbers, and symbols. Then how in the world do you remember all that stuff? You know, especially since you have to have a password, a different password for every place you log into. So you don't use the same password for your banking account that you use for Amazon. Or if you have more than one account that needs a password, you don't use the same password over and over again. And I'll tell you the reason why. Is because some of these locations, like people have Yahoo Mail. Do they really still have Yahoo Mail? AOL. Yeah, I see people at AOL Mail still. I don't know why, but they still have it. It seems not to be that popular anymore. But they use the same password and login. So what happens is, like Yahoo got hacked big time a couple of years back, and someone got all the logins and passwords. And you know, the first thing they did is they tried to log into Amazon with your login on password, and most of the times they got in there, it was pretty easy to do. So you got to have different passwords for each location. And so one of the easy ways to have different passwords for each location and to have complex passwords, I mean, humanly speaking, you can't remember 10 complex passwords. I can't, maybe you can. But you use things called password managers, and some of them are free on the internet, and some of them are very secure and really work well. You got KeePass, LastPass, NPass. Some of them will charge you a monthly fee, and you can look and you have to research to see which one best fits you. But what's nice about a KeePass manager is if you give it authority, it will create the password for you for that account. And then it will remember that password. And so what it boils down to is that you'll only have to remember one password to get into your computer. Then KeePass, let's say, will remember all the other passwords in your computer. So this would save you a lot of effort. You don't have to write them down again. You don't even know at this point what the password is for your bank account or for Amazon or for your email account, or things like that. And it's very complex. It follows the rules, and I would set it to, you know, a lot higher than 8 because it remembers the password. You can go out to 16 or 25, 26, whatever password, digits, characters on your password, and that's almost impossible to break. And having different passwords with different, you know, the bank, the things like that, you know, Amazon, you know, your email, all sorts of other things, makes it extremely hard for someone to break into the other accounts once they hack Yahoo or once they hack some of the other services out there. So just remember the details, and then you're only going to have to remember one complex password, and that's to get onto your computer to open up one of your password managers, and then from there the password manager takes over, puts in your login and your password, and it really makes it easy. So that's what you have to do. And you know, pay attention to passwords. Some people blow this off. They say, well, no one's ever going to remember my dog's name from when I was 6 years old. Well, it's not a person typing in passwords on a computer trying to break your password. There's actually software out there that hackers actually purchase. And some of it is free, and it's very robust software. It really works hard, and it can do a lot of login and passwords in a very short time period. And yes, it knows the word password with the S's changed to $signs, so that isn't going to work. Remember, a complete random password should make no sense. It should not have words or phrases in the password. So You need the password manager, and when it comes to hackers with passwords, they can buy dictionaries that are they're 1 terabit strong, full of passwords, and the computer will talk to actually it's a computer to computer, and they're talking back and forth at record speed, and they're able to break the password that way. So, use password managers, and just remember complex password, upper, lowercase, numbers, symbols. So that's the whole spiel on passwords. Patching is the next important thing you must do to your computer, especially people at home. Sometimes I go into a home and I of a friend or something, and he asks me to look at his or her computer, and when I look at it, I realize it's never been patched. You ever hear that ransomware called WannaCry? Well, it was capable of doing its evil, which was encrypting databases because of a lack of patching. And what is patching? Well, patching is it affects your software, and software is not perfect. So people do the best they can. Microsoft's a pretty good corporation, and they work pretty hard on putting out a pretty solid piece of software that goes into your computer. But they're humans, they're not perfect. And so what happens is they come across some problems, some holes in their software that can allow someone to break into your system, or a problem in the software for other reasons. So what they do is they create what they call a software patch. And the software patch is issued free to anybody that wants it. And so all you need to do, though, is go and get the patch and turn it on, and it loads into your system. So usually it's the second Tuesday of each month. That's why the Wednesday afterwards is called Hacker Wednesday, because the hackers get the patches too, and then they reverse engineer. And when they reverse engineer the patch, they're able to figure out where the software weaknesses is, and then they go after those weaknesses in people's computers. So what you want to do is you want to patch all your systems. So you want to patch not only your operating system, but you want to patch as often as possible all your other software that's in your computer. So it's pretty easy to do. You can go on to Google and type in, patching, and it will show you how to do it, or go into Bing and it'll show you how to do it. There is within your operating system, there is a place where you can just click on it and ask it to check your system for patches, and it will come back and tell you if you need patching in certain systems of your operating system, certain areas of your operating system. And then what it will do is, if you allow it, it will download that patch and it will load the patch. Now I'm at the point in life where I just let Microsoft do it automatically, and you can put that setting in your operating system so Microsoft automatically will download the patch when they have one, and when you turn off your computer and turn it back on again, it will load the patch. And so when you turn it back on, you get a little bit of delay, sometimes for a couple minutes, and then your operating system is up to date with all the patches that are known to the manufacturer, and it just keeps your operating system and your other software at least secure from known vulnerabilities that hackers can use to break into your system. Now we're going to talk about phishing. When I talk about phishing, I'm talking about emails, and it's spelled PH rather than F. And of course it matches the others: patching, passwords, and phishing. Kind of neat that it all fell together like that. But you got to watch out for these. These are emails that are sent to you that have evil intent on them. This is how people sometimes downloaded the ransomware. It was because they opened up an email that they should not have, and when they opened up that email, it downloaded the evil software that encrypted everything on their hard drive, and they lost many days of business and a lot of days of sleep. So you got to be careful. Some of the things you should know is really don't open up emails that you don't know the person or where they're coming from. Just 2 days ago, I got an email from the IRS, and they said, and it looked pretty official, and they said that I owed them $10.5 million. I wish I had $10.5 million tax liability. That would be fantastic. I would be one wealthy person. But I immediately knew it was wrong because they said I owed them $10.5 million. Then they asked me to negotiate with them, and they gave me an AOL account to email to negotiate with them of returning a portion of that money back to them. So I did not, I looked at it in preview, I did not click on any links or anything else that they suggested. So you really have to look for that phishing emails, some of the other emails, the nasty emails that are out there that look legitimate, but they're not. So you really have to be careful. Unless you know the person personally, I wouldn't open up an email. And even then, if it looks fishy, sometimes your friend's email account has been compromised. And so what they end up doing is using, they break into their system and they used all their email addresses to send out their evil emails out to you. That's called phishing. So there's other things that are called spear phishing. They specifically go after a specific person. They do research, things like that. You got to remember, again, there's a lot of money in this hacking thing. People make millions at it, and it's very hard to catch them. You know, I was talking to a person high in the law enforcement area, and I asked them the other day, I said, how often do you have bank robberies in the area? And he said, you know, really, we don't have very many bank robberies anymore because there's not much money in the bank. He goes, what we have is people that hack into the bank and steal money. And he says, and that's pretty profitable for them, and it's very hard to find them. And that's true. It's really hard to find a professional hacker on the internet. So we've dealt with the three things: the password, the patching, and the phishing. If you deal with those three things, you should be pretty secure. And now I'm going to tell you there's some other things you need to be aware of. Be careful, doing internet work at the airport or a coffee shop, things like that, unless you know what you're doing. There's some ways to do it that are secure. There's also a possibility of issues there more than anywhere else. But as I promised at the beginning, I'm going to teach you a way to do a complex password and remember it. And it's kind of easy. It's an easy way to remember it. And what you do is you come up with a poem that you know. You can even use things like a song, like God Bless America. And what you do is you don't take the first letter of each word. You can take the second or the third letter of each word. Or you come up with a phrase. I have 10 grandsons who live in Pennsylvania and are happy, and they all have blonde hair or something, whatever is the case. And it's just a phrase that's easy to remember. Then you just take the second letter in each word. You make sure you add numbers. In this case, it was 10 grandchildren. And then you add a symbol somewhere in there. And that creates a complex password. And that password is easy to remember. It's not a password phrase. I'm not using dictionary words, so listen real closely, okay? I'm taking the second or third or fourth or even sometimes even the first letter in the phrase, and I'm using that as the letter in my password. So you come up with something that has 10 words in it, and then the second letter in each word is your password. And then you add a symbol somewhere in there and a number, or you create a number in the phrase. Like I said, I have 10 grandchildren in Pennsylvania, so I could use PA as my capital, and I could use the 10 in there, and so I'll have uppercase, lowercase, I'll have symbols, and I'll have numbers, but it's based on a phrase. And I have this is what I use. I have a phrase in my head that I don't have to worry about what it is. I always remember it, and I can just think of the phrase, and as I'm thinking about it, I'm typing in the second or third letter to each word, and I know where my symbol is. Rather than have an at, I put an at sign or something like that. and it's completely, it's unable to be guessed. So all these other things where people use their first name and they reverse the letter and stuff like that, anything that you can recognize as a word is unacceptable in a password. But if you follow these three things, as I said in my intro, passwords, patching, and phishing, and you pay attention to those three things, change your password at least twice a year if you're a home user, and you follow these rules, you stand a really, really good chance not to be hacked. Now, some people say, well, can you guarantee that you won't be hacked? Let me give you this little story, okay? Because people have asked me this a lot, being a cybersecurity professional, when I counsel them on firewalls and design and policies and procedures. And if you're a company, we do this for companies, set up their whole cybersecurity along with their IT department. So let me explain this little story that I tell people about security, cybersecurity. And that is, can I guarantee that you won't be hacked? No, I can't guarantee you won't be hacked. However, you know, when you go down to the airport and you get on a commercial airplane and you take off, you're pretty sure that all the rules were followed and that there was professionals who worked on those engines and those instruments. And there's professionals in the cockpit that know how to fly and are experienced and everything else. And you know, when was the last time you heard of a commercial airline disaster? They're very rare, but they do happen, and things happen. And so, you know, you got to be careful no matter what you do in this area of the internet, surfing the internet and being on the internet. However, it's a lot different than the saying, you know, I'm gonna strap two boards on my arms and I'm gonna flap them up and down and jump off a 10-story building. Well, I guarantee you, if you jump off that 10-story building, you're gonna go splat. Okay, so, you know, here's the difference between the two. If you don't follow some simple rules of cybersecurity, it's sort of like standing on top of that building with those boards and flapping your arms up and down and jumping off. It's a lot different doing it that way than getting on a commercial airline. Now, can I guarantee that the commercial airline will never crash? No. But I can guarantee that you will crash if you're haphazard on the internet. You will be hacked. And people are surprised when we put in firewalls and they can see that, you know, 5 to 10 people an hour have made attempts to break into their networks. Again, this is Jim Gibson, and I do appreciate you watching the video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up on it. I appreciate it. Send me comments in the comments section, and sign us up to follow. There's going to be more videos. We do videos, I would say, at least once every 2 weeks, maybe more often sometimes. But we do a lot of videos, and we do a lot of videos on this subject. Thank you for watching.